1959 Fender Bassman. I mean, have I peaked? I think I peaked, guys. I don't think there's anywhere for me to go. This is the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail of Holy Grails. I am absolutely beside myself. I have been wanting one of these for so long. I have been pursuing this specific amplifier for over a year. I've been in talks with the owner, and it's finally here. I'm absolutely blown away. So welcome to the channel if you're new. My name is Tanner, and I'm all about these old vintage amplifiers, taking them, fixing them up, and giving them a new lease on life, gigging them. I gig vintage amplifiers exclusively, and this is my next my next project. So this video is going to be the start of a big series where I'm going to deep dive into the amplifier, fix up what needs to be fixed, and gig this thing, play it. So stay tuned, subscribe if you want to see and follow along that journey. But yeah, this is a 1959 Fender Bassman. And there's a really crazy story of how I ended up with it and all of the pieces that fell into place for this to happen. It is wild. I'm not going to get into the details now, but suffice to say, it is crazy, totally a meant to be sort of thing. And here we are. So obviously this is the rattiest Tweed amp you've probably ever seen. It is dripping in mojo. I mean, mojo on mojo on mojo, which I love personally. I know some people like really clean Tweed amps. I had a mint 59 Princeton that I sold. This is more my speed, and obviously more affordable, more player grade, which is great for me as a player. So yeah, this amplifier, there's lots going to it. We're going to deep dive into that, open it up in a second. But before that, really, I just want to kind of play a couple of clips I got when I went and picked up the amplifier, which I'll get into more in a second. But the original deal with the owner to purchase this was he had another vintage Tweed, a Tweed Deluxe, that he wanted the switch replaced. So I happen to have the correct replacement on hand. And so I brought my soldering iron and my tools, and we recorded a little bit of me working on that amp. So let's cut to that clip real quick.
It's Tanner.
I'm here. We're looking at a Bassman, and as part of the agreement, I said I would replace the switch in this beautiful, is it a 59?
I think it's a 56. I
think you're right. Tweed Deluxe, gorgeous amp, but not firing on. So we're going to replace the switch real quick, but this is what we do.
Tanner drove 2 hours to do it. He makes house calls.
I guess I make house calls now.
Smells good.
Yeah, these the plastic coated wires always smell terrible. You get this like green goo that comes out of them. It's not very lovely.
Like you even brought a wrench with you, opening.
I was prepared.
I'll send you a picture of me playing in Hawaii back in 1978.
Wow.
And I had this amp on top of a web amp. I used the web for my pedal steel, and I use this for my guitar.
Trying to get it to match up with the other one, so it looks right.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Okay. All right, I see glow.
Oh, it is glowing.
Yeah. Faintly.
It's working.
I think so. All right, I think it works. You want to grab a guitar real quick? You see the tan lines. The tan lines are amazing.
And I played it for a lot of years. The sound of old Fender.
There you go. There's a smiling face. The amp is back alive. There you go.
Thank God. I just love this amp.
All right. Okay. On to the Bassman.
You fixed it. You're a genius.
The owner, Ron, was so great. Really, really nice guy. So we moved on to the Bassman, and now that the Tweed Deluxe side of the deal was done, and there it was in the corner, just kind of sitting ominously. So Ron plugged in, played it for me just to show it works. The amp is not healthy whatsoever. This thing had a lot of issues going on, but it did make sound, and that was kind of the biggest thing for me. I just need to hear output. From there, I'm pretty confident in my ability to fix it up. So we were good to go as far as I was concerned. So I paid Ron, and then he started to tell me the story of the amplifier, how he got it. So I filmed a little bit of that. Let's cut to that clip, and then we'll dive into the amp.
And it sounded amazing. And I thought, God, I'd love to have something that sounds like that. So I went up to him on his break and I asked him, how are you getting that sound?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, it's my Fender Bassman. It's a 1959 Fender Bassman. This was many years ago. And I thought, I'm going to get one of those. And being a road musician in bands, we traveled all over the United States. I went to every pawn shop.
Yeah.
Every secondhand store. And to make a long story short, I couldn't find any. So I noticed that there was a antique guitar amp show going on in Sacramento, California. I thought, what the heck, I'll go down there. And I was down there an hour before they opened up. And I was one of the first people to walk in, and the first vendor I came to, that amp was there.
Wow.
And I go, I want that amp.
Yeah.
I don't care how much it was. It was $1,800. But nobody had heard about them really. They weren't like today.
Right, yeah.
And I asked the guy, I said, if you don't mind me asking, where did this amp come from? He goes, Redding, California. That's 45 minutes away from my house. I didn't play it for quite a few years because I was afraid I'd blow something up. And then I was going through Mesa Boogies. Great guitar player. He said, why don't you bring that old Bassman and play it? I said, well, I don't know. I just kind of really like my boogies, you know. And he goes, you ought to bring it sometime. So the next week I did. And I played it from then on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the story.
How long ago was that?
Oh, God. Over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it look like that when you got it, or is that, yeah? Played real hard by somebody in Redding, huh?
Who knows?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool, man. The thought that this amp looked the same 30 years ago as it does today is insane. The stories this thing could tell. Man, I mean, whoever owned it before Ron, they played the crap out of it. They obviously loved it because, you wouldn't play an amp you didn't like. But they were also, not afraid to play it. They really, really use this as a tool. I bet this thing sounds great. That's usually a good sign for vintage gear. If it was played a bunch, it usually means it was a pretty good piece. So hopefully that's the case here. Now we're going to go ahead and get some close-up shots of the exterior so you guys can see a little bit more of the detail of the amplifier. And then we're going to take off the back cover and see what we're working with, pull out the chassis, confirm what's original, what's not, figure out what we got to do, order the parts, and then we're going to dive straight in. Handycam mode activated here. Let's take a look at the Tweed Bassman. Starting with the grill cloth, obviously a few rips here and there. Personally, I really, really hate when the grill cloth gets ripped, but there is no replacing this. There's nothing you can do to make a grill cloth fit the rest of the exterior on this amplifier, so it is staying exactly how it is. Let's take a look at the awesome plate here, Fender Bassman. This gives you a good idea of the condition of the Tweed as well. So if you don't know, the Tweed is actually lacquered, and so over time it can get this kind of darker color you see here. See, the corner is pretty chewed up. And you see this darker color. All the edges are frayed just like you would expect for something played as much as this. And if we take a look back over here at the other side, very similar condition. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the back. And here's the back. This thing is so frickin' vibey. See, the Tweed has aged significantly. You can see how dark the top is too. The top is extremely dark compared to the rest, but the back is also quite dark. All of the edges are frayed. It looks like we're missing a screw there. Does still have the grill claw, surprisingly, though, in the back here. This gets ripped and torn up pretty often. So let's go ahead and take a look at the speakers and take this back cover off. Actually, really quick, I just wanted to pull out all of these invoices here from service on the, almost like a car. It's service history. A thick stack of invoices here. This one dates to 2014. I'm just showing all the work that was done to the amplifier. I took a quick look at them, and most of them are really simple stuff like a power switch replacement, a jack replacement, a tube, stuff like that. So I have seen one photo of the inside of the amp, so I have an idea of what we're going to see. However, I don't fully know. We'll know more in a second, but based off of this, it doesn't seem like this has had any, crazy things done to it outside of one thing I already know about. And then a baggie full of some parts here and just some tubes, it looks like, and various other pieces. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the speakers now. We'll take a look at this here in a second, but let's dive into the speakers. So the amp was sold to me as having 2 original, 2 replaced. You can see these are P10Rs, 220917. So this will be the 17th week of 1959. 220 is the manufacturer code. This one is the same, both P10Rs like you'd expect. Now, the other 2 down here look the same as the top 2. They're missing the stickers, but that's not abnormal. The sticker's actually coming off on this one, if you can see that maybe. So it's kind of interesting. And we should be able to see the code towards the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. Lighten it up a little bit. 220, I see 917 there. P10R. See it here too, maybe? You can just make that out there. It looks like that also says 220917. So, interesting. So I actually think perhaps they're both recones, maybe, because the owner did tell me there was 2 replacement, 2 original. These 4 all have the exact same date code, 17th week of 1959. So I'm inclined to believe these are the 4 original speakers that came with the amplifier. I mean, even if we look at the solder joints here, this looks original to me. This doesn't look touched. The wiring harness does not look touched. So that's pretty cool. I was not expecting that. Like I said, I did not even look at really the back of the amp at all when I bought it. So it seems like we might have scored here and got a quad original. Again, maybe recones, maybe not. I'm not sure yet, but that's very, very good. So let's go ahead and check this over here. See what this, I saw it in the ad, but in the corner, but couldn't actually see what it was. Oh, so this is a business card. How funny. So this is a antique jukeboxes and amplifier repair. Bruce Gerard in Chico, California. So he literally stapled his business card inside a 1959 Fender Bassman. That's crazy. That's some audacity right there to just staple that inside a vintage amp. But there you go. Maybe that was a long time ago and it wasn't as crazy back then, but obviously major faux pas now. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a better view of the tube chart here. Now, this was a big surprise to me because I asked the owner if there was a tube chart or not because you couldn't see it in the photos, and he told me there was not. So this was very surprising to me when I got home and looked at it. So we should be able to see in the corner here. Looks like, I want to say that looks like IF. So that would be June of 1959, I think. So that's very, very cool. Yeah, the original, you can see model 5F6A in the corner. Wow, that is so cool. I was really bummed when I heard it did not have that, but there you go. It has it. So now we can go ahead and pull off the back panel here and see what's hidden inside. Of course, I would be remiss to not show the top of the amplifier. So here you guys go. And you can see it is quite worn. And again, you have the replaced ground switch there, polarity switch. These two have been replaced. And you can see there's really not much left as far as the silk screen is concerned. I don't actually know what any of these do. So I'm going to have to memorize that. These two are basically completely gone. And then the jack's there. So yeah, lots and lots of wear on this. Probably the original handle, looks like it. Pretty cool. So now let's go and take the back off. We're going to give the wide angle overhead cam a chance here. So I've got all of the screws removed from the back plate. Let's take it off and see what's waiting for us. And also see if there's any asbestos. All right, yep. So check on asbestos. Still there. Now, I can't see a ton from my perspective. You guys have much better view than I do, but from what I can tell, it looks pretty dang good. Obviously, there's been some work done to it, but I don't see anything hacked, which is great. The preamp tubes are all JJ12AX7s, it looks like. And then the power tubes are both JJ6L6GCs. This one is absolutely cooked. I don't know if you can see that. This one looks destroyed, so these are both probably bad. But it's all good. It should have 5881s in it anyways. And the rectifier appears to be looks like a 5U4 GB, I think. So, okay, I can't really see what's going on. So let's go ahead and take the chassis out and dig in a bit deeper. And here we go, guys. This is the chassis out of the cabinet. So interesting. The dimensions of it's very, very skinny and extremely wide, completely different than the later Fender models, from the brown face and black face era and so on. So immediately center your screen, you guys see this big transformer. This is the output transformer. This is really the heart of the amplifier, a big, big component in the vintage world. A lot of value tied up in this thing, as well as the tone. This has a big effect on the tone. We see a code on it, 45249. This is exactly what you want to see. So this is the original output transformer, which is fantastic. Good news. That is huge. Moving on to the left here, you got the Doghouse cover. We'll open that up in a second. This is the choke. There's some black lettering right here, but I can't make out what it says. We can look at that a bit closer, but it looks vintage original to me, or at least era correct. And this is the elephant in the room. So let's slide everything down a little bit. Okay, so this is your power transformer. And this is absolutely 100% a replacement. Now, the owner, Ron, he did not know it was a replacement, and the photos he had, it was kind of hard to tell. But I was able to kind of look at it a bit closer, zoom in, and let him know that this is a replacement, not the original Triad. But I couldn't quite make out the letters on it and the numbers to tell him exactly what it was. And he didn't want to take it back out again to see. So this is our first look. Let me zoom in. So we see EIA 606, looks like 225. So 606 is Schumacher. So this is the brand that Fender used for really the majority of the vintage era. Basically, Triad was a Tweed era, and then after that, pretty much was all Schumacher. Brownface was Triad as well. But yeah, so Schumacher is a very good power transformer. 225. Because it says EIA here, I believe this would be a 70s or 80s transformer. And 225, so 2 is the year. So this will be probably 1972 or 82, 25th week of either, would be my guess. Can't read what that says. CSA something. And then this is the part number here. It looks like L022798 is what I read. You guys can't really tell. I have to shift my head to the side. Maybe I can lift it up a little bit. It doesn't really help you guys. But yeah, so L022798. So let me go ahead and look that up on my phone and see what amp this would have been on. So it appears that this is actually the power transformer that Fender used for the Pro Reverb and the Super Reverb, which is actually kind of best case scenario because both of those amplifiers are about 40 watts, so very, very similar to the Bassman. The Bassman was kind of the predecessor, if you will, to those in a lot of ways. So this is a decent fit. That being said, this is absolutely getting replaced, and a big reason for that is the voltages in this amplifier is kind of unique. And so basically, we're going to be swapping this with a Mercury Magnetics. Gosh, they called it FTB something. I can't remember what it is, but it's the 59 M, which is the low B plus rated power transformer. Basically, what that does is it brings down the voltages, kind of as if you had an original one with a Variac, turned down to say like 115 volts AC instead of 120. And the reason you want to do that is the voltages in these amps just run so hot on modern wall voltages, and that just kind of cools them down. So instead of having to use a brown box or a Variac, you can get a power transformer that's already got the secondaries dropped a bit, and that'll be a much better fit. So this is a very solid power transformer, but we're going to be replacing that with Mercury Magnetics, and maybe someday we'll find an original, but honestly, power transformer is not changing the tone, guys. The power transformer will change the tone if the voltages are different, but if they're the same, then the sound is going to be the same. So it's actually, there's going to be more utility in the Mercury Magnetics one because we'll be able to have the voltages lower so the amp will feel better. It won't be quite as harsh. The voltages won't be too overwhelming for the caps, because a lot of times what happens with these, the caps in here, and we can open up the Doghouse right now, the caps in here, if the amp is unloaded, for example, they can exceed the voltage rating of the caps over 500 volts on modern wall voltages, which is very bad. So, and finding caps that are rated higher than 500 volts is difficult. So you can kind of sometimes do these, putting caps in, would it be series to raise the voltage rating of them, but it's a bit of a hassle and not my favorite kind of solution. So actually that replacement power transformer could stop us from having to do that at all. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and open up the Doghouse here and see what we got. I have no idea if this has been recapped. Obviously, partially inside we saw it was recapped, but I don't know about the Doghouse. And the Doghouse and the Tweed amps is a bit different than the later eras you guys have seen on the channel. This is my first one I've seen in person, so this will be interesting. So it has been recapped. Okay, and you can see what they did. Oh, interesting. So these two are in parallel. What rating are these? 85 Celsius. These are not very good caps, actually. 80 microfarad, 280 microfarads here, and then these are probably 20s if I had to guess in parallel. So interesting. And they were soldered here, so that's another difference. Is they're just soldered to the Doghouse itself, the ground, which is kind of cool in a way. I don't think I'm going to change that, but yeah, you can see, wow, look at the color difference between the wire here versus here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So these are all going to get replaced. No big deal there. But yeah, not bad work. I mean, those solder joints look pretty good. Better than most, for sure. And here you can kind of see a little bit more of the chassis. It's not that bad. I was expecting it to be more rusted, to be honest, but it's really not bad at all. So this is all looking good so far to me. I'm actually quite happy. So let's flip it over and take a look more like the tube socket area and see. I couldn't tell if there's a sticker or not, Lupe, Rachel sticker or something. So let's take a look there. Here's a closer look at the power tubes. You can see this one is completely roasted and definitely not good. So we'll put those off to the side, take out the rectifier here. Sockets look original to me. There's the rectifier. So we got a Sylvania. Not bad. Kind of cool. It's got the same little clips that the my Marshall has, or I guess my Marshall has the same clips as the as the Bassman has. So crazy. I own a Bassman. It's crazy. All right. Can we make out what that says? Is it a Lupe? L-U-P-E? L-U-P-E maybe? So I've had a Rachel before. Lupe is a very common name as well. You guys let me know what you think that says. So it is still here, barely. Inside of this is much worse condition than the outside, but that's not too surprising. Very grimy, lots of junk, kind of way back in the crevices there. Not sure how well you guys can see it, but this whole bottom portion is very grimy. We're going to have to definitely clean all that up. Try not to lose this little bit here. Lots of little pieces of solder and looks like maybe even glass. All sorts of stuff happening. But it's not bad. It's not that bad. Some grimy wire, that's to be expected. I don't know if the sockets are all original, but they look good to me. Output transformer looks untouched, all the wires. Should focus over here to the power tube socket. So it does have these added screen resistors. These are big old, look like 2-watt carbon comp, 470 ohm. And those would not be original, but they look good. Everything's looking pretty good, honestly. I'm I am very pleasantly surprised. Okay. Oh, let's take a look at the top view a bit more. It's got the bias section here. These are bias caps to be replaced. Looks like they're trying to bias it with a, gosh, this would be a 2727K resistor here, looks like. I don't know what the red band is. That's kind of weird. So 27K resistor. Again, we got this added little diode for the rectifier. Selenium diode, whatever you call that. Looking pretty good. Astrons. Right here we see 2 added resistors for an artificial center tap. So this would be 2 100 ohms. These are giant, look like 2-watt resistors going to a wire, which is then going to a ground lug down here. That's kind of a interesting way to do that. We'll probably redo that. Again, this giant death cap that was added for some unknown reason. The switches were both replaced here and here. Looks like 2 slightly different brands or eras. The polarity switch that we already noted was replaced is a completely different kind brand and won't actually fit because of the power transformer, so they put it off sideways. That's kind of funny. Presumably this will be the center tap for the heaters that they just put off to the side because they added an artificial one. Kind of shrink wrap here. That was never heated up. Doesn't look like it was needed for anything. We're going to be redoing the 3-prong because it's so short. I like to have really, really long power cords with my amplifiers. Just for gigging, it makes it so much easier versus having to be stuck right next to an outlet. Everything's looking really good, though. I'm quite happy. Let me see if I can read the codes on the pots here. So I see 137922. So that'd be the 22nd week of 1959. It says, looks like 916, 16th week of 1959. This one you can't see because it's covered up by the solder. And then this replacement for the normal volume pot where they did it upside down for some reason. This is 1977, it looks like. 1377733, so 1977 replacement CTS. So totally fine pot, nothing wrong with that. Should be a 1 meg audio, which it is. Oh no, interesting. So this is a 1 meg linear. So they replaced it with an audio taper, so different. I'll have to check the schematic just to confirm, but that is interesting. And then the only difference I think between the normal and the treble channels or the bright channels is just a bright cap, if I recall correctly on these. And then speaking of bright, here's the presence control with a cap as well as a resistor. So this is, I believe, the kind of later revision of the 5F6A that you saw in the 60s as well. The early 59s and 58s in the schematic, I don't believe, show this configuration. I recall there being something about how when Marshall created the JTM45, they followed the schematic and they messed this little part up, or they didn't follow the revision Fender did on the actual amps. And I think this just makes it so there's not scratchiness. There's no DC on the pot. On the presence pot, whereas a Marshall, there is. You get some noise when you move the presence pot. Yeah, just really cool, man. This thing is awesome. I'm nerding out on it. If you're bored, I'm sorry. This is just really fun for me. So just looking at the last little bits of the board. This is kind of hard to manhandle here. So we got a replacement cathode bias cap here, replacement cathode bias resistor here. We've got a couple replacement 0.022 caps here. These would have been Astrons. We got the original 68K resistors. Plate resistors look like they might be original. I'm guessing those are bad based off of the sounds the amp was making. Some more original carbon comps. This looks like an original Domino. Very cool. And then some more Astrons. Replace cap, more Astrons. Yeah, this thing is largely original. Original sprayed cap, it looks like there. Awesome. So basically, high level, at minimum, we're going to be replacing all of the electrolytics in the amplifier. We're going to be replacing probably all of the Astrons. We'll see. We'll see. For sure these two, though. And I'm not sure exactly what replacements I want to go with for it. So we'll do these for sure, maybe circle back to the rest and see what that's looking like. The bias supply here, we're going to be taking care of. I'm replacing those caps. I'm going to make this adjustable bias. This is all fine. We'll probably redo the artificial center tap once we have the new power transformer. And yeah, and just kind of cleaning it. And I think from there, we should be good to go, hopefully. Hopefully no surprises waiting for us, but you know, some nice cleaning and this thing should be good to go. I'm very, very happy. This is honestly better than I was expecting. So this is great. So I think we're going to go ahead and end here because I've got to order some parts and I'm going to check all the resistors and all of that, but I'm not going to bore you guys with those details. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to follow along with the series, make sure you subscribe, comment, give the video a like if you want to boost this to the algorithm. Much appreciated. And until next time, see you guys.